A law change to give the police stronger powers to tackle the makers and sellers of synthetic drugs could be on the cards. The Police Minister says the Psychoactive Substances Act that regulates synthetics is, quote, inadequate, and the government is considering moving its regulation to the Misuse of Drugs Act, which could result in harsher penalties. And as the government grapples with how to stop synthetics, help may be at hand for people who are addicted to the drug. In the Napier suburb of Maraenui, here's our Hawke's Bay reporter, Anusha Bradley.
Following the revelation last month that up to 45 people had died from synthetics in the past year, the Health and Justice Ministries, Police and Customs set up a working group to find possible solutions to deal with the crisis. The Police Minister Stuart Nash says a law change could be part of that solution.
What we're looking at doing is moving the regulation of synthetic cannabis out of the psychoactive substances legislation into the misuse of drugs. Because the psychoactive substances, that is about regulating legal highs, and keep in mind there are no legal highs at this point, whereas the misuse of drugs, that is about going after illegal drugs. And the penalties for synthetic cannabis aren't adequate at this point in time, of that there's no doubt, but the psychoactive substances legislation is not the right piece of legislation to deal with synthetic cannabis.
The maximum penalty for making or selling synthetics under the Psychoactive Substances Act is currently 2 years in jail. Under the Misuse of Drugs Act, the maximum penalty for supplying methamphetamine is life imprisonment and 14 years for natural cannabis, which is up to 70 times less potent than synthetics. Stuart Nash says he can't say what penalty synthetics might carry if the change was to go ahead.
Possibly a higher penalty, but these are for the dealers and suppliers. But what it does do is it gives the police more powers to go after people who are dealing. And so, the penalty regime, that's something you got to deal with. And I have nothing really to say on that at this point in time. But what I think we need to do is give the police the powers and the correct powers to go after people who are dealing and supplying this.
Border control is also at the forefront in the battle against synthetics. There are more than 600 different compounds used to make the drug, and Customs intercepts a new one each week. Customs Minister Meka Whaitiri says staying ahead of the manufacturers is tricky.
My understanding is you can subtly change a chemical within it and it becomes legal again. So we're constantly banning and then it's becoming legal. And that's my understanding of how synthetic cannabis gets in. So this working group that I've mentioned to you will need to address how we can jump ahead of it so that we're not always following it.
Meanwhile, more immediate help is being offered to addicts who are struggling to quit the drug in Napier's poorest suburb, Maraenui. As RNZ has been investigating, residents who are hooked on synthetics say they've given up trying to quit because it's too hard accessing help. The Hawke's Bay District Health Board's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr John Gommans, says the DHB will investigate setting up an addiction outreach clinic in Maraenui, but only if the community wants it.
We know from past experience that Maraenui is a community that doesn't like being done to by outsiders. It doesn't really want outside groups coming in to fix their problems. So we do need to consult about how they want us to do that in a way that works for them. If the community needs something and we can agree on what needs to be done, then we can help work with them to make it happen.
One of the volunteers who used to help run a free walk-in clinic in the suburb last year, Tracy Benson, says that's fabulous news.
We definitely need one because I'm a firm believer that the opposite of addiction is connection. If these people have somewhere to go where they can connect and talk about what's going on for them, and know that there's support there, I think it would really help.
Meka Whaitiri says the government working group's first report on possible solutions to the synthetics crisis is due in the next month. In Napier for Checkpoint, Anusha Bradley.